After losing 2-0 to England in the knockout stage of a major event for the first time since the 1966 World Cup final, the German national team is set to go through a period of rebuilding. The 2020 Euros was supposed to be Löw's swan song, a final farewell on a positive note. However, Die Mannschaft never really played like the champions they have been in the last decade or so. Regardless, Löw should leave the national side with his head held high and great memories of the 2014 World Cup triumph in Brazil. Hey everyone, welcome to Goalside, where we try to bring stories of the beautiful game from a fresh perspective. Today, we're going to discuss the future of the German national team after an early exit from the European Championship. Not only that, we need to discuss a couple of major news stories that will have a bearing on how the next English Premier League campaign pans out. Before we start, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on all the things that we share on a daily basis. Tottenham finally find a manager. It's quite interesting to see a Premier League club struggle to find a manager for so long. Normally, any manager will jump at the chance to work for a team playing in the English top flight. However, Tottenham seem to buck the trend. They've got a shiny new stadium that has everything a visitor can hope for. However, their home ground doesn't really play a big role in attracting big players or even managers. Once Jose Mourinho was relieved of his duties earlier this year, Ryan Mason was given the role on an interim basis. The former midfielder was never expected to do a Solskjaer, and once the season ended, Daniel Levy started searching for a new manager. First, it was Antonio Conte, who initially seemed to like the idea of managing Spurs. However, the Italian soon realised that he would be working under a man who's unlikely to back him in the transfer market, and so he backed off. Then came Gennaro Gattuso, who only recently signed for Fiorentina, only to leave them 3 weeks later. Even he decided to not hold the poisoned chalice, aka the Spurs job. Finally though, Tottenham have found a manager for the next campaign. They've announced the arrival of Nuno Espirito Santo, who left Wolves at the end of the last campaign. Funny thing is that he was never even supposed to be the London club's manager and was close to signing for Crystal Palace before having a last-minute change of heart. Anyway, he's set to manage Tottenham, and perhaps this is the man who could help the club end its eternal wait for a piece of silverware. Leicester make another bargain signing. You can trust Leicester to sign the right player. The Foxes are quite prudent in their approach, and they've mostly always signed the right players. With Jamie Vardy nearing the twilight years of his playing career, Brendan Rodgers' men needed a long-term replacement, and they've found one for a bargain price of £23 million. The Foxes have finalised the signing of Zambian striker Pat Sundaka from Red Bull Salzburg, for whom he scored 68 goals in 125 appearances across all competitions. This is a major coup for Leicester, since the 24-year-old was also linked with a move to Liverpool. Do you think Leicester will finally clinch a top 4 spot in the league next season? Let us know what you think in the comments. United finally get their man. It's time to celebrate, Manchester United fans, since your club has finally reached an agreement with Borussia Dortmund for the transfer of Jadon Sancho. It's understood that a fee of around £73 million has been agreed between the two parties, and the young winger is set to undergo a medical before completing his transfer. Sancho will be signing a 5-year contract with an option for another year. The two sides had been locked in negotiations for over a month and finally ended a transfer saga that stretched to last year when an agreement couldn't be reached. Dortmund had a gentleman's agreement in place with Sancho that he could leave should a buying club come up with their asking price, and the Bundesliga side have stuck to their word and let the England international depart. Sancho scored 16 goals and notched 20 assists in the Bundesliga last season, and since signing for the Germans has become one of the most exciting young players on the planet. A move to Old Trafford would be a great test for Sancho, and it's likely that he'll be the first signing of what's supposed to be a hectic summer transfer window for the Red Devils. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is eager to bring in a centre-back as well, with the club discussing a move for France international Raphael Varane from Real Madrid. With Sancho's arrival, United's right-wing issues do appear to be sorted out. The youngster has thrived down the right and is also versatile enough to play as a number 10 and on the left flank. What's next for Germany? Joachim Low's 15-year spell as the manager of the German national side came to an end in a rather unspectacular way. Of course, we knew that Germany weren't as strong as they have been in the last 10 years. However, we didn't expect the team to fold in front of the Wembley crowd in such a timid manner. Lukas Podolski, who achieved so much for the national side, wasn't happy with the performance and questioned the team's attitude in the 2-0 loss to England. A fire could break out in the stadium and they would stay on the pitch, he told Bild. There was a lack of ambition, a lack of fighting spirit. It all seems so bleak when you see the faces of the players. There's nothing that moves. Germany have had the upper hand in most of its meetings with the English, so the defeat was always going to result in a full-scale post-mortem. Former players weren't happy with the overall performance, and that's been a trend for a while now. Many people in Germany felt that Löw had already overstayed his welcome, and the German Football Association should have hosted the retirement party a long time ago. The 2018 World Cup campaign was the team's worst ever performance at a World Cup. The Germans finished bottom of a group which contained the likes of South Korea, Mexico and Sweden. And then the team stumbled in the Nations League. In November 2020, they were thrashed 6-0 by Spain in a Nations League encounter. It was inevitable that Löw would have to leave. However, the DFB did not have a lot of options lined up, so they persisted. They had been trying to look for the right manager and finally found one in Bayern Munich's Hansi Flick. Flick was interested in the job but wasn't going to leave at a moment's notice. This was why the DFB had no other option but to back their current manager. Poetic end? To be fair, we all wanted Löw to have a memorable sending off, but his reign ended with such a damp and unremarkable showing that it feels a bit poetic. Löw arrived on the scene as an assistant to Jurgen Klinsmann in 2004, at a time when the national side was limping from one game to the next. Almost 2 decades later, he's leaving the team in similar circumstances. After the World Cup triumph, it appeared as if the celebrations wouldn't stop. However, expectations had also rose to great levels. Players were aging and the core squad started wilting. The Germans were a machine in 2014, but the next 4 years would be the start of their waning influence. While winning the World Cup would be his legacy, the fact that the national team struggled in the next 6 years is also a part of it. The national team had been aching for a new future for far too long, and perhaps it was good that they bowed out early at the Euros. Hansi Flick will have his work cut out for him, and the sooner he has the reins, the better. The ex-Bayern manager has won everything at club level, but managing the national team is a different ballgame, where Löw always sought to go back to bringing familiar faces to the squad. Flick will need to look at the likes of Kai Havertz, Joshua Kimmich, Leroy Sané and Leon Goretzka and expect them as the future of the national side. Even Manuel Neuer and Thomas Müller might not survive the cull. The two have been great servants to the German cause along with Toni Kroos, but it's time to inject fresh ideas in a team that is going through something of an identity crisis. That Germany crashed out of the Euros this time around shouldn't come as a surprise. They were in a tough group and might not have even made it through to the round of 16 following a poor showing against Hungary. Thankfully though, their blushes were spared and they set up a date with England, who they had gotten the better of over the past half-century. Many saw the game as an opportunity to turn things around and take advantage of a rather easy route to the final. The Germans couldn't. Gareth Southgate's men wanted it more and their manager got everything spot on in that game. Following the debacle, Löw was asked if he was going to join a club in the coming weeks, to which the veteran tactician just shrugged. He did sound tired. Years of managing the national side has taken its toll on him, and we have to say that if anyone in Germany deserves a break, then it's him. Löw's last few years at the helm might not have been glorious, but we can't forget all that he's given to the national side. He arrived on the scene when the national side was in tatters. He gave them a new identity and transformed a group of hungry young men into champions. If that's not a legacy, then we don't know what is.